Aloha, aina. Welcome back to Malama Aina Zoo, nestled in a valley, protected by mountains, and projecting the beating heart of all that is good about Hawaii. Aina translates to a person of the land and is used to denote a local as opposed to a tourist. And to me, if you're here, you're family. So, welcome, Aina. I left the habitat a little subpar for what I wanted at the last video, but in my mind, I was just so drained that I decided good enough was, well, good enough, and now I don't want that. So today, I clean up some stuff, and we'll probably be doing that in the next episode as well, since I see more things I want to fix. As you can see, we start by adding a planter to our floating reeds. No one will ever see them, but it bothered me, so we're gonna fix it. I could come back, I could add dirt. I'm not going to. I patched it up with plants, and I do have a limited amount of stuff I can put in here because of the console. When I filled the water, I noticed, and you probably see it now too, the water level went way up, and I kind of like it. So other than moving the interactive food item, I'm just gonna leave it. I mean, I do kind of like it. So, and then the important thing I didn't do last time, check the heat map to see where these animals can go. It's incredibly important that they can't hop the fence. And right now they can't. So to give them more room and to prepare for a barn, I've moved out all of the support structures. And then I destroyed the fence, which now means that the animals have technically escaped and everyone's going to run away, but whatever. The null barriers go in. If you make a fence out of construction, I believe it was Adam, the animals can't that I learned this trick from. Then if you leave a little section for planting or space or whatever, and another fence to keep the people out, it looks realistic, and you have that gap to thread between the null barriers. As long as the animals can't go beyond the blue line, and the guests cannot go into the blue line, the animals never escape and the guests never enter the habitat. And I think that's brilliant. So thank you, Adam Up. I'm going to be using this a lot. So I just started with a basic chain link. Took me a little bit to find chain link, but we got there. And then using the conservation wood pieces because I like how they look, I built a frame for realism. And then I messed this part up. What I should have done and what I get to do is copy the base, bring it forward, and then adjust the side. It's just the better way to do it. This is sped up, by the way, to 1,000 times normal speed. So 10 times, 1,000%, so 10 times faster. Just to give you guys an idea of how long this takes. I am using a mouse and keyboard, but it takes a while. This black and white striped bar will keep guests from walking to this point. So when I bury it under the ground, they won't walk beyond that wood. So even if this part goes over the path, they're not going to be walking through my planter to get closer. I've blocked them from getting near the null barrier. With the mulch put in, it's time to do some planting. And it took me a while to come up with what I have, and I'm not 100% sure I'm going to leave it like this forever. But right up front, it works pretty well. It gives some good coverage, some color variety. And I really like this this bigger plant to block the animal's view of the people. Copying the back support, bringing it down, create the little fence barrier we need to keep the people out. And then it's just a matter of copying that top rail one more time. And now I've got a place that you can rest your arms or rest a kid. Copy the whole mess and begin the pasting process. Now I will say, there's a hill, and I didn't anticipate the hill, but I did come up with a pretty good workaround for it. You'll see it here in a second. But yeah, just trying to line up the back corner as well as I can. I can always duplicate the front and move forward. And right about here, I'm going to notice, oh, there's a gap. Look at that. Well, I could try doing this. And I do try doing this, and technically it might work, but it's going to require a lot more work than I have desire to work with. So instead, after realizing just how janky this is going to look, Instead, let's just delete it all out and, fighting with the control system a little bit, let's put in concrete walls down and around the curb. And that should work. And it does. It just takes me a minute to figure out where exactly I need to move some barriers so the concrete walls will pop in. But once I get there, which should be any moment now. Yeah, there we go. Once I get to that point, I can then go back to copy pasting some walls, which isn't so bad, really. And yes, it took a lot of time to get it going, and it took a significant amount of time to line everything up. Again, remember, this is a 10 times speed, 1000% speed. So everything takes 10 times longer than you're currently seeing, but it was worth it. I have no complaints. The end result was nice. I'll have to see how much this level of detail affects the console version. I'm hoping I can at least get like 10 exhibits into this zoo before I'm full, but we'll see. We'll see what happens. Moving the keeper, scientist, mechanic, etc. enclosures over, I'm not convinced that they're going to stay there. In fact, I'm pretty sure they're going to move. But for the time being, this works while I continue to think on how I want things to go. And then I hop down and I walk around and I check everything to see how it looks. And I notice that this side's a little bit tall. It's got to be lowered into the dirt. So that's what I'm working on now. And once I do that, we'll pop back down, go to real time, and walk around. And while we're walking around, I've pulled some facts for you while we explore this habitat. Facts in alphabetical order of animals. We have okapis, we have pygmy hippos, we have red river hogs in here. So okapi facts. And as luck would have it, just yesterday, as of this recording, which I'm recording at about 2 weeks in the past from where you are watching it, but my family went to the zoo, and it just so happens that our local zoo has all 3 of these animals, and 2 of the 3 had keepers out, and they were answering questions for other people, and I asked one myself. So as for the okapi, which is my wife's favorite animal, it is one of 2 members of the family Giraffidae, which means that they're essentially cousins to giraffe. They're the only 2 animals in that family group. And despite having zebra-like markings, they're not related to zebras at all. They are known as forest giraffe. So if you don't necessarily like okapi, you can just call them a forest giraffe. And they have a long tongue that they use to strip leaves from branches, just like their cousin. And speaking of being known, as in they're known for using their tongue, well, they weren't known in the West until 1901, which means my great-grandpa, who was born in 1899, when he was born, we didn't know these animals existed. And I can only imagine people thought that we were making it up until they got some pictures. Because could you describe a horse, zebra, giraffe hybrid that secretes oils from its feet? I think everyone would be justified in believing that we were lying. But that's the okapi. The pygmy hippo is native to swamps and forests, and like myself, it is an introvert. If you're a fan of these adorable chonkers, you actually have Firestone tires to thank for their popularity in zoos in America. And by that, I mean their abundance. So what happened is the Firestone family was doing business in an African nation. They needed some favorable laws. They got in good with Coolidge and the president Coolidge, and they bribed him. They gave Coolidge a gift, and it was a baby hippo like this one walking on the water. And he loved it. And he sent it to a zoo to live peacefully because, you know, it's not going to be toddling around the White House. And that hippo was named Billy. Well, it turns out that Billy, in every meaning of the term, was a stud. And he basically fathered an entire generation of pygmy hippos here. Population explosion because of Billy. And most of the hippos that we see now are his descendants. And with that, I will bid you adieu. More fun facts and more discussion next time. Until then, I'll catch you later.